blood pressure, a really useful thing to be able to monitor. I'm sure everybody's had it checked and heard those two numbers. But what are those numbers? What's really going on? Well, if you've had your blood pressure taken, it was probably done with the wonderfully named device, the Sphygmomanometer. A sphygmomanometer has a cuff that straps around your arm, and the doctor will inflate it so it squeezes your arm really quite tightly. If it squeezes tight enough, it will push so hard on the artery carrying blood down through your arm towards your hand that the blood flow will be stopped. Don't worry, not going to stop it for very long. Listening with the stethoscope and slowly releasing the air from the cuff, you can find a point where the blood starts to flow again. You can hear it moving, a whooshing sound with every heartbeat. So think about what's happening. The cuff is pushing on the artery to stop the blood, and the heart is pushing the blood to get it to flow. So when it just starts to move again, those pressures must be balanced. So you can write that figure down. And then continue to release more air from the cuff. And there'll come a point where that whooshing noise stops because the blood can just move very freely, a kind of resting pressure. Note that figure down too. So there are two numbers. That hardest push, the hardest pressure, called the systolic pressure, and then the kind of relaxed state, called the diastolic pressure. The numbers are in millimeters of mercury. Seems like an odd unit. Well, the atmospheric pressure, the weight of all the air around us, is pushing down at about 760 millimeters of mercury. And what that means is that if we got a big tube and filled it with mercury and put the end in the dish, if we had it really high, the mercury would just fall out under gravity and fill up the bowl. But because the air is pushing down on the bowl at the same time, it won't all fall out of the tube, some of it will stay in there. And it turns out that it's about 76 centimeters of mercury that you can keep in a tube. So the figures that the doctor is going to write down are on top of that atmospheric pressure. So two numbers, the systolic and the diastolic pressure. If the top number is higher than 140, then we'd call that high blood pressure. The bottom number might change too, and if the bottom number is higher than 90, again, that's a sign of high blood pressure. And high blood pressure is bad. It's an indicator of other problems. It makes the likelihood of stroke or heart attack greater. There's some connection to some forms of dementia from high blood pressure too. And of course, it's putting more strain on blood vessels around the body. So if you've got high blood pressure, you really ought to try and do something to bring it down again. Some of the things that might have caused it could be too much salt in your diet, not enough exercise, maybe you're a bit overweight. Things that you can do to try and lower that blood pressure. Some people have very low blood pressure. Now, low blood pressure is less of a problem, not generally very worried about it. Can, in some cases, cause a bit of faintness or dizziness, especially if you stand up quickly. And of course, if it's very low blood pressure, that means the blood isn't properly reaching the organs. It can cause serious problems. But the sort of thing that would cause that would be bleeding, internally or externally. There'll be other warning signs of that. So it's important to keep an eye on your blood pressure, especially if it's too high. Get it measured when you have a checkup at the doctor's, but do sensible things with your diet and your lifestyle to keep it under control. And remember that great name for the device, the Sphygmomanometer.
For more information on our live interactive science and engineering shows, check out our website and connect with us through Facebook and Twitter.